Hi everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel BPMN Guru, and welcome to this next video in a series of videos where I answer questions that have been posed by you guys, my subscribers, through my YouTube channel on particular BPMN issues that you're having or modelling processes using BPMN. Now this question comes to me from Daniel in Surrey in the UK, and it's related to the complex gateway. Don't worry, it's not that scary. So even though Daniel has posed this question about the complex gateway, I'm not convinced that the complex gateway is actually the right solution for the problem he's having, or at least for the scenario that he's trying to model. So I think what we'll do is we'll jump right in and we'll look at the process that Daniel sent over to me. So it's fair to say that what you see on the screen is a slight simplification of the process that Daniel emailed over to me. I have made a couple of changes. So Daniel was using send tasks here to model the sending of the request for certain documentation, but because some of these may not happen, I've modeled them as events. So I think let's start to go through it. So what we have is we have the mortgage application being received, and I'm not showing all the message lines coming in here. I've tried to make this as simple as possible, just to speed things up on the video. So we've got the message coming in, and then we've got a parallel gateway, and the parallel gateway is to model the fact that in parallel to this request for further documentation going out to the applicant, we've got a credit check being performed on the applicant, which is I've modelled as a service because it's an external service that we're using to perform the credit check. And then we've got the credit check report coming back, and then we decide from that whether the applicant's credit report is good or bad. And the good credit report is feeding later on in the process, which we'll come back to in a second. So we've got a business rule task here on the other output of the parallel gateway, and that business rule looks at, depending on the type of applicant for the mortgage and some of the characteristics of the applicant, it will determine what documentation is being requested of the applicant. So for example, if it's a business and they're looking for a business mortgage, they would request company accounts. They may also request bank statements. So that's why we've modelled this as an inclusive gateway, to say that we may do both of these plus a variation of some of the other events happening here. Depending on the applicant, again, they may or may not ask for a passport and or a driving licence. So again, some of these tasks may or may not be done. And once we receive that documentation back, the passport and the driving license are sort of coupled together here to say that yes, we may need the passport, we may need the driving license dependent on the applicant, but we would always need the birth certificate. So I suppose the documentation, it's in these two pairs. So we've got the sort of financial aspect here where we're asking for the company accounts or the bank statements, this pair of documentations, if you like, if that's the right word. We've got this pair here, which is the passport and or the driving license, and then we've got the birth certificate along with the credit report that's down here. If we receive the company accounts and we receive the bank statement, then that passes a token down to this parallel gateway here. And if we receive the passport and or the driving license, that passes a token to the parallel gateway here as well. Same as can be said for the birth certificate. Once we receive that passes a token to this input of the parallel gateway, as well as the applicant having good credit also passes to the parallel gateway. So once we have a token on all of these inputs to the parallel gateway, then we can exit the parallel gateway and review the documentation. and if the documentation is acceptable, they progress with the application. If it's not acceptable, they contact the applicant, and there is more to model here in terms of what they ask for when contacting the applicant. So it may well be that they're asking for maybe a couple more months of bank statements, or the driving license was out of date or whatever, but they're contacting the applicant to ask them for some additional information. So that's the way it was modelled when it was sent through to me. And what we're going to look at in terms of using the complex gateway is over this area here, this part of the process where we've got the two inclusive gateways and we've got the parallel gateway. So let's have a look at the process as I've modelled it using the complex gateway. And you can see that I've done away with the inclusive gateway that was here at the top there, this one here. I've done away with the inclusive gateway that was here, this gateway here, and I've replaced those two and the parallel gateway with a single complex gateway. So that would actually work. It's true to the characteristics of a complex gateway that would make that work. That said, I'm not convinced that from a modelling point of view this is a good way to do it. All we're doing is we're saving on two gateways. We've got rid of two inclusive gateways, and we've got rid of the parallel gateway, but we've replaced effectively three gateways with one. But have we actually gained anything in doing that? I don't actually think so. What we've effectively done is we've taken away this good logic here to say that in the process we may want the company accounts, but we may also want the bank statements. So we could, they could have the company accounts if it's a business application, or if it's an individual they'll just want the bank statements, or both. Same is said for the passport and the driving license. It may well be that for certain applicants they require a passport, or in some circumstances the driving license may suffice, and that's why we've used an inclusive gateway again here. We're only actually saving two gateways. We've lost two gateways out of the process, which isn't a great deal. So is there any benefit from modelling it like this with the complex gateway over modelling it like this with the two inclusive gateways and the parallel? I don't personally think so. I would model it this way, and I know that there's a lot of arguments and discussion over the use of the complex gateway, whether it actually brings any benefit or not, and I know some people struggle with applying it to certain business processes, and I do too. I think in the 15 years that I've been modelling processes, I've possibly used the complex gateway twice, and even then I probably could have modelled it a different way using other gateways, even just one or two more gateways. So the saving that we have, I don't think warrants using the complex gateway, and in fact it's probably more problematic for people reading this process like this and understanding exactly what the gateway is doing, because really to understand it you have to know what's going on in here in the business task, or the business rule task rather. So I'm not convinced that it's beneficial using the complex gateway. I'm not a great advocate of it myself. Personally, I would do it this way. This is a simplified version of the process that Daniel sent over to me, and we also do need to model in here what happens if after a number of days we don't get anything back from the applicant, but I'm going to discuss that separately with Daniel, and I'll probably share that on a separate video of how we got around that, what solution we came up with. It may not be the outcome of the video that you wanted. You probably wanted all your questions answered on how to use the complex gateway and what the secret is, and there is no secret. It's probably a little bit misunderstood. Personally, I wouldn't use it if it can be avoided. So thank you for watching, guys. Any questions, post them in the comments below, and I'll look to get back to you as soon as possible with any answers to the questions that you have.